We in the information age, but really what that means, it's oversaturated like podcasts in the rap scene. It's confusing. Whether you go in live or you zoom and you ain't on the same page you read with the room thinks, and the room thinks too many words, and every word is personal. And when it's in type, it's even worse if you misunderstood. It's just how it works. So I'm a hypocrite just like the rest of the earth. And racists think you hate them, so they gotta hate you first. Miscegenation is a crime, the melting pot is a urn. They want us normal and ignorable, killing to burn. Sexism isn't a two-way street. Listen to her, and slut ain't got any use. It's an excuse for a slur. Welcome to the Museum of Dead Words. I'm your tour guide, Dyalekt, alongside Pamela Capalli, Kristen Crouch, and Andrew J. Scoville. We've spent the last few years pouring through conversations online to find words that kill discussion and ruin discourse. We dub these words dead and have been infiltrating art galleries, co-working spaces, cafes, and anywhere we can get in and fit in to share how these words died and why that matters. In the online series, we'll be spending a week with each word with Blueprints in Progress on Tuesdays, where we get deep into how a word dies. And on Thursdays, that's today, the main event, which is a collaboration with artists from around the world to share their experiences with these words. If you know a word or a phrase that has died or may be in danger, please share in the chat, add to the Dead Word bucket on the museumofdeadwords.com, or even send me a DM. A little about the museum. We opened when your mouths did, thanks to the generous contribution of millions of donors like you. We've been able to identify and catalog a growing list of words in the English language that have fallen into disuse. You know, in this language, it can be kind of hard to tell when a word has stopped working. You know, you may be wondering why we designed rhymes for the lines that died. You see, the thing is, language comes from rhythm. Conversation, words, communication, it comes from the drum, from that sound. And words don't actually mean anything until we give them power by infusing them with cadence and with tone. So the sixth word in our museum is slut. And slut is a word with a long and winding history. I thought I would address, at least in one meaning, a little sluttish for the occasion, meaning it's not sexy, it's dirty. And it began to die when a number of different meanings started being conflating sexuality with amoral actions in women. It was born around 1400 and died around 2011. And to really understand where we went with this word and this artist, I figured we should play a game, because sometimes games are the best way to learn. So let's pull out this game that we have here.
This is Jeopardy! Slut Edition. This is Jeopardy with your host, author of Green Up, Sustainable Design Solutions for Healthier Work and Living Environments, Stevie Famulari.
Welcome, Dyalekt. I'm so happy to have you for this episode of Slut Experty.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited about being here today. So,
Do you think you're a slut expert? Do you think you're going to do well?
Well, I thought that this was going to be more like Jeopardy, where we're just general knowledge of stuff. I know, I don't know a lot about slut. My mom's watching. I'm not exactly a slut expert. I'm not quite sure how one becomes one. I'm sure there's a degree.
Slutologist, it would be called, exactly.
Right. Slutology, right, would be the study of
the study of the study of sluts as a student or as a practitioner. Yeah.
I can do it though. I think I can do it.
All right.
Let's figure it out. Okay, let's start off. Just like they say in March, her story is our story. So let's start with her story for 100.
You got it.
Okay.
Dyalekt. In the 1400s, this is the word For chunks of dust or dust bunnies?
Chunks of dust or dust bunnies. Chunks of dust or dust bunnies. Plural. Okay. I need a buzzer or something. Okay. In the 1400s, a word for chunks of dust or dust bunnies.
Yes. Remember, you're in the Slut Experty edition of this, so think of your words carefully here.
Yes. So, what is a tumbleweed?
What is that? Oh, that would be incorrect.
Tumbleweeds. What are tumbleweeds?
Nope. What is slut's wool?
Slut's wool.
Slut's wool. When you have those things tumbling around your house, the fur of your pet or anything, it was called a slut's wool.
Oh wow! Is that because pets are supposed to be like dirty and sexually aggressive or something?
No. It's because slut had nothing to do with immoral woman in the 1400s. It used to actually mean also a trash can. Like in a different time period, a slut's hole was an alley or an area where there were trash cans.
An alley, a trash can. Wow, that's really ill because when you think about a lot of imagery around women and sexuality, a lot of those same words get used.
Let's see if you get to one of the questions that involve the men. So what's your next one up?
Okay, well, since that one was so far away, and that's maybe why I didn't get it. Maybe let's go 200 modern uses. Modern uses 200.
All right. This term is used at Halloween in reference to women's costumes.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like slutty costume, slutty
Halloween, think Halloween.
Slutty like burglar, slutty famous person, or sex.
Halloween, think Halloween though. It's a phrase that's used for Halloween costumes. And it's a phrase used for the holiday.
So like for the holiday itself? Slutty?
Yeah. Yes!
Yeah, I've heard of it.
200. I had actually never heard of it.
No, so not even like I've heard of it. I feel like I have seen an advertisement for like sexy Halloween.
I've never seen Slutoween as an advertisement. That would be terrible. Oh my god.
Maybe it was someone's commentary on an advertisement for those types of costumes. But that's like the image in my head I'm seeing, like someone in like some nice graphically designed 3D bubble font, orange of course, saying Slutoween.
Slutoween. I think I've heard it on TV shows, like just modern
control one's. Is it? I want to say, what is slut?
Oh, you're close, but
I think that's wrong, right? That's wrong.
Not entirely. You're missing part of it. If you're rejecting something, you are doing the reverse of it. So what is what's something you could add to slut to make it
so bad?
To reverse it?
What is toes?
What's holes?
Toes. No, it's backwards of the word.
Oh, well, okay. If you're not going to do something, you're going to redo it. Or if you're going to tie something and then your shoelace, you're going to take it off. You are going to
Reslut?
Close. Unslut.
Unslut. Oh no, you're saying. Oh yes, you're undoing unslut.
Undoing. Right. No. Redo. Undo.
I've never heard unslut.
Really?
Never heard of that. Well, it's unslut.
Unslut. To say that the government has no right to my sexual identity, my sexual practices, that you don't get to judge it or control it. And they are. Do you know, this is not funny, this is disturbing. The earliest court cases where slut shaming was involved was in the 1600s.
Yeah, that's not really surprising. I mean, the thing with unslut that gives me pause is like it still feels like it's. We talked about this last week when we were doing the sexism thing. Is like it still feels like it's playing within the rules that defines people as able to be sluts.
Well, yeah, except in 2011 it was the slut walk where where they were trying to reclaim the word. So this is after that whole Justice Dewar said, it's the way you dress, or the police officer said it's the way you dress, or sex was in the air. So that was 2011. So by 2013, they're like, okay, well, we're going to reappropriate it, and that was one of the ways they attempted to reappropriate it. Unslut.
It's funny that you mentioned the slut walk. When I did this show, when we had the physical version where we walked around the museum, I did little shorter monologues where I would talk about the words. And one of my experiences with slut was running into a poet friend of mine who was on her way to perform at the slut walk.
Oh my God.
I just bumped into her on the train, a really good friend of mine, amazing poet. And we were talking about what was going on. I wasn't really hip to it. I was like just hearing about it. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna hang out. Let's go there. And there was a lot that I really loved about it. Her piece was fantastic. There were a lot of other great performers, a lot of activists, a lot of student folks, and a lot of good energy. But the one thing that I never forgot about it, and it's really meant a lot to me in terms of like how we can and if we can reclaim words, is there's this thick, viscous circle of dudes. It was in Union Square, and like in Union Square, you can be a circle around it, and they didn't care that there was empowerment going on.
No, that they saw some people that were at that, or whichever year it was in the years that's been done. They wear clothes on the intention to say, I'm proud to be called a slut, or what I wear does not define me. There are many different approaches to it. And then there were men just ogling the entire thing. It's a very strange scene, totally strange.
Yeah, I mean, on the race side, I've definitely seen myself and with my family, like we can try to define things however we want. And the folks that hate you will still have their own definitions no matter what you do. And the thing is, like, it sucks, but you have to acknowledge it even if you disagree with it because it affects you and your safety.
Except, do we have to acknowledge it? Acknowledging it merely keeps it going forward. Acknowledging you as a human being, sure, you got it. But acknowledging your perspective, it's like, why waste my time on acknowledging your perspective when your perspective is either hurtful, ignorant, lacks consideration of my choices. I will acknowledge you as just a human being, but not if you say something derogatory.
I feel that, and thank you for pulling me back because acknowledge is a bit strong in what I'm saying. just the fact that you have to be aware of it, which I think, as you're alluding to with your stuff, is, a bit of a tragedy in of itself.
Yeah, it's sad that we have to be aware. Like, there's this thing of we're spiritual humans that, have this bigger sense, and you're standing in front of me looking at me like a creep. I mean, I know where's that sort of that boundary between getting to be proud of trying to reclaim slut or reclaiming it in the ways that it did, and then having these groups of people that disagree with it or don't care, just frankly don't care. I don't know. I know on a spiritual level what the answer is, but on a physical earth plane sitting there at Union Square, I don't have an answer.
I mean, that's like deeper than I think we got time for. It's like fundamentally like celebration in the face of apathy. That's such a thing. So in honor of that, let's go real deep. Let's throw caution to the wind. I want to do potpourri for a G. Let's do it.
Got it.
An entire rack with that.
All right. In 1992, Jane Mills writes this definition in a dictionary of words about women, and defines this word as a woman who is liberal, tolerant, unconfined, and not limited or narrow in scope. What is the word?
Not limited or narrow in scope. Well, I mean, just judging from puns, I think it's in the text.
I know! I realized I typed that one wrong! Ron, shit! You got 1,200 points going into Final Jeopardy!
Yes. Oh! It's going to be Final Jeopardy. I'm really excited to do Final Jeopardy. So, for Final Jeopardy, what's actually going to happen in Final Jeopardy? Are we going to have to do some physical course? Because I don't think that we can do that socially distanced, but figure out a way if there's a way to do that.
Well, Final Slut Experty. I should have said that. In the final round, you can risk up to 1,200 points. How much would you like to risk?
Let's put it all the chips on the table.
You got it. And this is in the 2000s. There are this many negative terms for sexually promiscuous males, and this many for women. I'll give you this. If you get within 10 of each one, like if you get the range within 10 of the correct number, I'll still give you the points.
Okay, within 10. So with men, it's really easy because, I mean, first of all, it's definitely less than 10. That would be wild to me if it's less than 10. I'm going to say 3 to give myself some range, because if it's more than 10, it's going to be like 13 at the most. So I'm saying 3 negative terms for men. And even then, they're probably kind of dubious, because I bet out of those 3, there are 0 or maybe even 1 that don't involve a word that's primarily used to talk about women. But for women, I'm going to say 45.
Oh.
So 3 and 45.
All right.
Those are
whatever the buzzer is for no way are you close, that's where we're going to go. Is 20 for men and 220 for women.
Wait.
But I'll give you some of the ones for men, because you're right to say there's 20. So I don't have the full list. So I have in front of me male slut, which we knew, male whore, but then we have words that are, remember, there are some that are just stud, dog. We're not saying that men consider these as insult. It's sexually promiscuous. Whereas the women's list,
because stud is not necessarily negative.
We didn't say it was negative. Promiscuous is not negative.
There are this many negative terms. This is negative in the thing.
Negative, but there aren't really for men. I mean, funny enough, in the midst of this study, they also said, what are words to criticize men sexually? And some of them are wit, pussy. He's being such a pussy. Sissy, which used to just mean sister. It had nothing to do with like just anything sexual, or weak. It just meant bro and sis.
Ooh. Can I pause real quick with that?
Yeah.
A little bit of a digression. But so, in a lot of Southern families, your brothers and sisters are named like brother, sister, bro, and sissy, and that's like a thing.
Yeah.
And my mom was one of 11, and I had an Aunt Sissy. And as a kid, I was like, Aunt Sissy, like, why did they name her like she's a weakling? But not knowing that it does come from sisters. So yeah, I do that.
So there are these words for men that are completely insulting, and yeah, for women there's myriad more. And they found that almost half the women in the study in the 2000s, that almost half the women in the United States have been slut shamed in their lifetime.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Over 200 though, like over 200, it's so many. That's like some stuff. Like I understand casual discrimination. Because it's often easier, cheaper, more beneficial to be a jerk or to just not care. But like once we get over 200, that's working really hard to be a jerk.
No,
But there's already many words, right? Like you still need new ones after we hit 172.
Well, the thing is that they're gendered. That's to me, that's the more disturbing part. Like, why can't if we still need offensive and insulting words for sexual, immoral sexual behavior, which let's just start with there shouldn't be. But if we are, at least make a gender neutral one. Like, why does it have to be that the women get the offensive one and the men get the "you man slut"? Oh yeah, that's me.
It's funny.
Make it gender neutral.
I feel like the sexual, or at least no area based insults do start out gender neutral. Like when you're little, like the funniest, meanest thing is to call somebody a butt.
Yeah, you butthead. You ass.
Butthead, you ass. Like, ass is when you start getting real edgy. Your ass, asshole, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But then
it becomes gendered. It's from age.
Well, and it becomes gendered based on the idea of, I think, power. Because it's either physical strength or some kind of being in control. You're just talking about like pussy or being pussy whipped and how that gets in there.
Right.
And all of that is though the idea of women being physically weak and or maybe emotionally weak.
Sure. I mean, not sure, but sure. No, I agree with that. That to call a man a woman is insulting. Like think of the military times where they go, "You ladies,"
Yeah.
It's meant to put them down as weak, as if being a woman is being weak. But the sexual identity for women is equally sort of that our sexuality can be judged or questioned or explored, and yet men's sexuality is, if you do it, you're good, and women, if you do it, it's this double standard.
Well, and it's the weirdness, the double standard, because there's like it doubles back over itself. Because I just do like the "hey ladies" like military thing. I think of every time there's been like a military, and I feel like they do it more in TV and movies than in the actual military. But like I think about when they have the tough female character, doubles down on the "hey ladies, get
right
in a twist." Like every other line is that one where it's like letting you know. It's something I always look at. It's like, you can be part of the oppressive system even if you're the oppressed party, as long as you allow yourself to be a token and totally carry the torch.
Yeah, but can't we just, I mean, so in one of the other games, so I know there are 3 of these Jeopardy games, one of them, in the last one, which to give this away for everybody that's going to play, says, well, what are our choices? Do we reclaim these words that become, that are gendered and absolutely questionable to ever be used, let alone in today's culture or any time? Do we just lose the word entirely? Do we come up with a new word that's gender neutral? Like, so we have this dilemma. Great. We have a bunch of women walking through for Slut Walk, and we have a bunch of men supporting it.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of ogling men, and then you have all these things. The word slut hasn't been updated in the dictionary in over a century. That definition in most dictionaries still go back to over a century old. You think reclaiming it is going to be popular or appropriate? Are all words meant to be reclaimed?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I feel like in a lot of my research with all of these words, it's really tough for a word to go backwards. So
I look forward to a new meaning, but I'm not even sure. I don't think anything can ever go backwards. I'm not proposing that. But words have new definitions all the time. Right. It changes with time. It changes with culture.
I will say one thing about slut, and like in terms of like changing to new meanings and evolving and growing, I think the reason, or one of the reasons that the word slut is dead and it's been left behind has to do with the sounds of it.
The SL?
Yeah, well, at the end, it's very percussive and it hits pretty hard, so it's easy to keep as an insult. Whereas hoe, which was a contemporary, the idea of like there was the vague nuance of hoe being slightly more related to prostitution and slut being slightly more related to be easy. But that even then was like very light. But hoe, and its relation to French couture sounds got the EUX applied to it, and that one has been allowed to evolve. And I know I've seen people using hoe in, first of all, a gender neutral way, and also a morally neutral way.
I mean, sure, by different generations and different groups across the country, sure. But as a general popularity, no. I can't say. I mean, we both live in New York, so we can say this for New York, sure. But I also lived in Fargo, North Dakota, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and in Oakland, California. And there's no fucking way that in the Midwest, let alone Northern Midwest, that they would ever have taken the word and go, oh, well, let's address that. Like, that's not a popular approach to it. I don't think reclamation is... I mean, I'm torn on it. I'm proud of the people that want to reclaim words and bring them to a new use. But I don't know. It takes a lot of years and a lot of people. Why do there need to be offensive words in the first place?
Well, it's funny, the thing that you're talking about, we do this a lot on my podcast when we talk about economics. Sure. Every time we do, we're into around Thanksgiving time, we do an episode about boycotts. We talk about year-end boycotts, what boycotts are.
Can we call them, by the way, girl cots?
Yes, I get that, girl cots. Well, actually, the term that we came up for is boycott because...
Oh, much better.
Our thing that we were talking about was the boycotts and the ideas behind it. But I'm loving your gender-flipping terminology. It's always very useful. We need to keep the balance up and also just keep folks on their toes. But the idea of these boycotts is that they require a lot, like a whole lot of organization, a lot of people got to get together. It's going to take years. It's going to be failures. It might still not work out. And it's okay for you not to take all of that on. You know what you can do? You can go buy your presents somewhere else.
Sure.
You can just say, it's not going to be me. I'm not going to be this person. And I think that that's more of what we have an opportunity in these areas, rather than like putting the whole burden on us, being like, it's not going to be me.
I'm not going to be the person that uses the word. I'm not going to be the person that says that as an individual. It's I don't know that I have an opinion as strongly. There are days I think that's possible. I mean, as a professor, I could say, my use of words, and this is real, and this is tough for the students, God forbid. I teach the history of landscape architecture, and this happened just last week. I taught Row Woman because I will not teach Romance history. I taught Row Woman, and I worked really hard to find the women in Row Woman in history. But this is a sentence. In looking at the humans of the culture and humankind, we really must address that in Row Woman history. That and there are these words that I choose to think triple about saying. Like, let's find every woman and every word that has man or men in it and say woman. Every word that has son in it, person, and say per daughter. A word that has boy in it and say girl. Every word that has lord in it, warlord, and say war lady. Every word that has, I don't have a master's degree, I have a mistress degree. I refuse to keep saying master's. And it's been very changing on forms to write in a mistress degree. But that's a whole other thing. To have words of female to male, her to his, queen for king, queendom, the queendom of, the kingdom of. There are all these words, but it makes me sir for madam or gal for guy. It just makes me talk so much slower, and I'm a New Yorker. to say I'm in the department of, and to have people go, did I hear that? Does she have a lisp? I mean, I think she's got a speaking problem. Few women. It sounds like I'm absolutely have a speaking.
No, you say that because I mean, we talk in the show about why I wrote raps for these things because language is really more about rhythm than anything else.
Sure.
I think that's one of the reasons why people have problems with changing language when they're asked to speak differently. I think part of people's inherent revulsion to like the pronouns and all these new language things that are popping up is, oh, I'm gonna have to change the rhythm of how I speak. And even though we express it a lot, the rhythm of how we speak is totally who we are.
It is. I mean, we all know. I mean, all those voice simulators that have, she goes, and he, no, we all have a rhythm to how we speak. And mine has changed in all of this time period. And it's about the past almost a year that I've switched, that I've regendered. In lieu of using neutral words like it's-story or their-story or us-story, it's been her, because until everybody uses a gender neutral, I will be using the she words for it, the her words.
I'm with that. By the way, I feel like we're
off slut. I know. We're
off topic. But just for folks who are a little uninitiated, let's bring it back a little bit and tell us. How did you get started with, like, how did this become an important part of your work? So tell us a little bit more about your work. I've been a little introducing and throwing some tidbits here and there about you and what you're doing and why the usage of these words matters. I know a lot of folks know, in general why they matter. What you just said about until everybody's equal, we got to lean towards my way. I feel that. But just give us a little background and let us know why you're doing what you're doing and what's happening with it.
Wow. I use the words. I know that was just a loaded one. My work doesn't really have a medium specific, although generally I've been choosing green approaches, plant materials. So there's green fashions that live, landscapes that move, landscapes that you can wear. There has been, in the Smithsonian, there was a seated paper that was designed up a staircase, and up the staircase, you then take all the paper, give away all the Smithsonian flowers, and plant it and destroy it, put it in the soil, and then it grows. It brings green across wherever it's planted. They all address looking at spaces differently and how we use space. And in a series of essays since the 80s, it's been looking at gendered spaces and our spaces gendered. And that became a topic. And combining all of that to how we interact and engage and how we could do it better, just better. Just, I don't care that's COVID. We're all humans and we don't treat each other that way. So as a gender, that was my approach to it. So I was always in writing using the female word, but then in speaking it, it's been fun. Fun to change it, including, and this is real, so I have one book out and I'm writing right now my second book. And so thank you. I sent a note to my editor that said, I will be refusing to use male gender biased words throughout this book. And the most notable word is huwoman. That huwomans and plants and huwomans in spaces and huwoman. Now in writing, just if you were to write this down, it's HUWOMXN. Now, if I never said the word, it looks like a foreign word. Like, I don't think most people put the X in women. Some people choose Y, some people choose other letters, but HUWOMXN, if I didn't say the word, my editor hadn't heard me say it, and he saw the word, and he said, what is this? Is this a new kind of plant virus you're talking about? Like what is this? What kind of engagement is this? I said, oh, that's huwoman. He goes, oh, you're going to have to write something in the introduction. You put an E in there, HU, no E.
Oh, not you, okay, got you.
Just human except huwoman. But thank you for putting it on screen.
Yeah, well, you see, and I decided to add some
letters. I mean, I like your letter in there for a myriad of reasons.
You woman, like, well,
no, I like your way of putting it. I mean, if I could get away with one more spelling of it, I would. But my editor said, okay, we'll make a deal here. As long as you use the word human 40% of the time and human 60% of the time, or somewhere. Like, it doesn't have to be an exact balance, but you have to use it interchangeably throughout the book. We're fine. And put it in the introduction. Here are the words that are changed.
They're asking you to be gentle as you usher it in. They're asking you to pepper it in.
It's one of those words. The fact I'm having the phrase "my editor" and "second book." I mean, the fact that I can even say that one as a sentence means, okay, I'm willing to put human and human. And I can't even say human anymore. That's a tough one now.
Shout out to my homeboy. I have a producer and DJ friend whose name is Human. It was good.
You'll still smell it. Don't get me wrong, but you won't have all of the contaminants. And Boston ferns, Kimberly ferns, taking the contaminants of paint fumes, fresh paint smell. They'll take it in, so you don't have to.
Wow. So I was like, oh man, it's gonna be about nature and womanism, right?
Oh, woman! It's going to be about nature and womanism. It's just about using plants to improve, to reconsidering how we use plants, not just as a decoration, but truly as ways to improve the environment that we live in, psychologically and physically. That's the first book. The second book is way more out there. It's way more out there, where I propose something called the Famulari theory on how to use plants to reduce airborne, the flu. How to use plants to reduce the infectiousness of the flu.
What? Okay. Wow.
I'll tell you one more on this part.
Yeah, tell me, because I'm not even ready to follow up on that. I don't know.
In May, COVID is at its, COVID in New York in May was still, we were the epicenter still.
Yeah.
And I get a text from somebody, and it was a random 7 a.m. text from somebody that said, hey, you should see if you could use plants for COVID. At the time, Trump was saying bleach. We could do bleach. I was like, oh God, no, you can't fucking do that. No way. And then I thought, forget COVID, just the flu, just a cold, just the flu. Can plants actually reduce me sneezing and getting to you? Can we do this? And so I put out these 6 steps: humidity, leaf size, hair on plants, stomatas that are open, I sort of put this thing together. I'm still going, no, this is ridiculous. Let me send it to some of my science geek friends. Somebody's going to go, you're out of your mind. and they didn't.
Hmm.
And then I send it to my editor. Again, the sentence I love saying, this is my editor. And he said, we want a book. I go, I mean, what? Like, is this real? Am I really putting out a book that says you can use green design plants to reduce the flu in a house or an apartment, in a public transportation, in a park or a plaza, same logic, on a roof, in a conference room, in a business office? Can we really redesign our spaces so that plants reduce? You can't kill a virus because it was never alive, so reduce its infectiousness. And the theory says yes. It's a theory. I'm gonna just keep going. It's a green theory that maybe in 5 years somebody's gonna prove I'm correct.
Wow, I mean, that's really fantastic, and I'm connected. I'm like, wow, I didn't know any of that, or that you were going down there. I'm gonna, I want to jump in on a few language areas.
Yes.
I really love that you keep talking about my editor. Which, you know, it feels weird to say, and it feels awesome to say, and congratulations on being at that place. It's wonderful. And you saying that you have an editor as a musician, it sounds the same way as when I say my bass player. You might hear in the background, I have a baby. He's small. He's about a year old. And we're starting to teach him about language and the idea of possession. And I've been really nervous about the idea of possession of like my thing. It's like, this is all our house. Like, he doesn't need to think that, you know, any particular thing is mine quite yet. And I've been thinking about the way that we introduce the idea of my and mine. And what you're talking about is a really beautiful way, because you mean my, not as in I possess this, own this, or control this. You mean mine as in I entrust my care to this person. When I say my bass player, I mean I'm entrusting my rhythm section to this person. When I say my friend or my mother or my editor, it's so great to be able to use my in that context.
No, thank you. I don't think we really, the only thing we own are our thoughts, and the best of us share them. Not all of them. I will say there's a small percentage we keep that's ours, that's nobody else's. But the only thing that are mine are my thoughts, and I'm happy to share most of them.
Yeah, us rappers are the worst. We share all of them. We share.
Oh, come on. I dare say that we keep not even the fear parts, but that small percentage that nobody gets to know about, whether it's the motivation behind doing it or the core of who I am. It might show through, but I refuse to speak some of the words because I think they get the right to stay mine till my death.
That's funny, because it makes me think about how, that's right, speaking of words, core values are the things that corporations always say, that's the important thing for us to figure out. What are our core values? What are the things that are deep inside us that we want to share? Right? So, okay, guy. You want to share the words that you got to say?
I don't know the word. What does that mean?
Well, his first word was dog, so everything is kind of related to that. So he's probably saying hi.
Hi.
Way of saying the dog. You're waving. He's waving.
I like.
Gestures. That's right.
Oh, we got Dada.
Yeah, he's hanging out with his dad, waving at you, and we're doing an interview.
I love his hair.
Thank you. We made it ourselves. Anyway, I really like all of this winding ways that we've been going and flowing around. And I want to ask you one last question to try to attempt to tie this all together. This is pulling it out my behind, so if it's a little bit for you, it's okay. So I really love all the stuff that you've been talking about, nature and science experiments and all those things with the word slut and what we can do to let go of it. And I just want to ask you, how can we make this language change that you're doing, you know, in large form with all of these words? How can we make it feel more natural? How we can make it feel more like it grows and is part of us and heals us? Thank you for backing me up. Yeah, and that too.
So I think our words are a reflection of our thoughts. So if the first sentiment is to think through something and choose our words specifically, very intentionally, knowing that you're going to hear it slightly different than I ever meant it, because we don't hear all the same. I think the best thing we could do is to really evaluate our thoughts behind it, and whether or not those thoughts still hold value and are still relevant. And if they are, go with it. If they're not, change your thoughts, and you're going to change your words. And you're going to realize there are better words that are more relevant to what you really feel now.
No, I like that. That's really great. So basically, our words are our thoughts. To share our free speech has a cost, and if we don't follow the direction of the words that we've sought, then we're lost.
That was much better than I did. Yeah, I'm with you on that. We have a responsibility with our words. Like the freedom of speech doesn't give us, somehow we seem to forget that there's a responsibility with what we say, and that there's an intention to what we say. And I damn hope that most of my intentions come from a good place, from a place of thought. And when they're not, I fucking hope somebody tells me otherwise. Like tells me, yo, way off target.
Well, and that's the great thing about words and art, right? It's criticism.
It's dialogue. Is it really criticism? It's a dialogue. Art is a dialogue. Beautiful dialogue.
I feel like both are the same. Like, and I know we were getting a little long into it, so I want to this. I feel like all art is criticism. All criticism is dialogue. I see what you're saying. I have a feeling.
I hear what you're saying. I think we have a difference of a word. Like, we have a problem with the word, which is why we have this museum of dead words. Because we all have these words, and one of those is criticism. I'm going, wait, no! And I'm going, y'all have different words.
Criticism has gone to an entirely different place, and that's a whole next discussion. Let's get on out of here. Before we roll, where can folks see more of the things that you're doing, any other ongoing projects, and say peace to our guests, Ispiani?
You can go to Engaging Green. You can go to Museum of Dead Words and play the game. You can go to my name and get me, and you can go see and play all of these works and really learn something from it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yes, go to museumofdeadwords.com. We're putting together a place for you to play it, download it, and possibly play it in your browser as long as Flash games are still allowed. Thank you, Stevie, and we'll check you again.
That's our perspective on the word slut. Please check out Kristen's epitaphs on Sunday, and next week our word will be evil, where we look at if it's that easy to turn a dirty word into a villainous one by equating sexuality with amorality. How easy can it be to make a blueprint for a villain? Check you next time. Thank you from the museum.